Welcome to Vacuum Wars, and to our review of the ECOVACS X9 Pro Omni, which is the latest flagship robot vacuum mop combo from ECOVACS. We bought one for ourselves and have been testing it in various ways over the past few weeks. If you've already seen our Robot Vacuum Awards show video this year, you know that the ECOVACS X9 Pro was the big winner, taking home 5 awards, including Best Overall Robot Vacuum for mid-2025, and the X9 is currently ranking number 1 on the Vacuum Wars Top 20 list, and second place isn't even close. And in this video, I'll go over the pros and cons of the X9 and explain why it was such a big winner this year. So links in the description, and let's get started. Starting off with the pros, let's talk about performance. ECOVACS recently introduced what they're calling blast technology, which means that they've upgraded various aspects of the motor, including with the X9, to produce more airflow, which they argue, and I would agree, is more important than suction when it comes to robot vacuum performance. And in the airflow tests that we do, the X9 got 27 CFM, which is one of the highest airflow scores we've ever seen, and its suction power was also way above the average amount too. The X9 uses a single main brush in a floating housing in combination with a single side brush to sweep debris from the surfaces of hard floors and carpets, where we found it to be excellent in our tests, sweeping up everything from fine to extra large debris from both surface types very efficiently and without scattering, as the side brush seems to have been slowed down from previous versions where this was an issue. The X9 also did great with other practical performance tests. For example, in the carpet deep clean test, where we test how good it can pick up deeply embedded debris from carpet, it got an 89%, which is tied for the highest score we've seen from a robot vacuum that has a lifting mop mounted under the robot. Another difficult test that the X9 did good with was the 2.5-inch flattened pet hair pickup test, where it picked up 93% of the hair, which is much higher than average. The X9 also has ECOVACS's new active hair removal system, which is little plastic combs in the brush housing, and in our 7-inch hair tangle test, it got a perfect score, with 0% of the hair tangled, where the average is about 38% of the hair tangled. But one of the biggest pros with the X9 was its mopping ability. The X9 Pro Omni uses a single roller style mop, which lifts up automatically when the robot senses carpets to keep carpets dry. It also automatically extends its mop roller to the side when it's near edges for better edge coverage, which it did good with in our tests. The way the roller works is that water is sprayed on the roller as it spins, and unlike dual spinning pads or flattened mop pads, roller-style mops can process wet liquid by squeezing out dirty water into an onboard water tank, which means that they can actually pick up wet spills without spreading them around, while other style mops are limited to mopping primarily dried-on stains. But its dried-on stain performance was also one of the best we'd ever seen. In fact, it got 158 points out of a possible 184 points on that test, which is one of the highest scores on record. But it also had much lower than average water left behind, which is good. And when you combine those scores with its other mop features, it's no surprise that the X9 Omni won the Vacuum Wars Best Robot Vacuum Mop Award for mid-2025. You can't talk about its mopping system, though, without mentioning its multifunctional charging dock, where when the robot returns to its base to charge, it will automatically wash the mop pads with hot water, dry the mop pads with hot air, refill the clean tank, and empty the dirty water tank. One new feature here is that the temperature of the water for mop pad washing can be adjusted depending on how dirty the room is likely to be. The base also has a dirty water sensor, which can determine how much the pads need to be washed. It also has a detergent reservoir if you want to have it mix in mopping solution with the clean water. It also has a fairly large 3-liter disposable bag for dry debris, which ECOVACS says can contain 3 months of debris before needing to be replaced. The dock has a self-cleaning cycle using sprayers. It also has fast charging and matter support, all of which are premium features for docks. Another pro was its obstacle avoidance. The X9 Pro Omni has several front-mounted sensors, including a camera, structured light, and time-of-flight sensors, which help it to recognize and avoid household objects that it would otherwise get stuck on. And in the various obstacle avoidance tests we did, it got 19 points out of a possible 24, which is higher than average. The obstacle avoidance system is trained on over 200 objects, and it has an LED light, which comes on when it's in low light situations. As far as navigation, it uses an internal LiDAR system to map and navigate around, and it did so very efficiently in the various tests that we did, getting a higher than average navigation efficiency score. The final pro I'll mention is the app. ECOVACS makes a top-tier app that is easy to use, with lots of features and lots of control over the robot and bin behaviors, which I think is important. The app has the Yeeco virtual voice assistant built in, multi-level maps, virtual barriers, you can control how often it empties the bin or cleans the brush, and it also has various pet-related features. Despite winning so many awards this year, there were a few things to pick on with the X9, so let's move on to the cons. The biggest issue we noticed with the X9 was its battery life. Despite having a longer than average official battery life number, which is based on its lowest power setting, we found that when we tested it on its other power settings, it actually had a lower than average battery score, with both its battery efficiency and average square foot per charge, which were both lower than average. This is probably due to its higher than average airflow and suction scores, as we saw earlier. And of course, it does have recharge and resume, so it will return automatically to its dock if it's low on battery. It will charge up and then continue where it left off on the map when it's charged up. Nevertheless, battery life was one of the few weak points in an otherwise stellar robot vacuum. Another thing is that despite it having an internal LiDAR, its height is around 3.8 inches, which is a touch higher than average, which is probably also due to it fitting a larger motor inside. It also has a lower than average internal dust bin capacity at 220 milliliters. Another somewhat nitpicky con is that the X9 doesn't have a few features that we've come to expect from flagships, such as the auto-extending side brush for better corner coverage. It also doesn't have advanced threshold crossing features which have started to show up this year. It's limited to thresholds about 20 millimeters high, which is the standard amount. But despite those things, the ECOVACS X9 Pro Omni is still one of the best, if not the best, robot vacuum we've ever tested. And it's no surprise that it won so many awards, or that it's currently ranking number 1 on the Vacuum Wars Top 20 list. The X9 is a brand new product though, so we will be watching the Amazon reviews closely to make sure that there are no long-term deal breakers that we would not have noticed in our initial review. But at least right now, if you're looking for the best robot vacuum on the market at any price, the ECOVACS X9 Pro Omni is it. Links in the description, and be sure to subscribe to Vacuum Wars before you leave. Thanks for watching. All of the links in the description are updated regularly to reflect our current favorite vacuums in multiple categories. You'll also find links to the Vacuum Wars website in the description, where we have more detailed lists of our favorite products, like our new Top 20 Robot Vacuums list, which is updated weekly.